Hey, what's up, everyone? I just really wanted to take some time out today to advocate on behalf of domestic violence survivors. And I was actually just checking out a video on last night in regards to a situation that we've all witnessed online. One particular situation is the one with the White, Howard, and Royce and Amy. Um, I literally watched Royce go down her master timeline about how things kind of like spiraled down in her situation. And it was kind of nostalgic and triggering for me at the same time because I understand the signs and the significance of domestic violence. And as she was telling her story, there were certain little red flags in there that just kind of reminded me of the situation that I had to go through throughout the years. And it was just so surreal because as I was listening to her story and her timeline, I kind of was taken back by how it's so easy to get caught up in things. And at first, I was a little bit judgmental of her going back and forth in that relationship. And I had to really consider the fact that, as a survivor, we do things like that. So I really consciously apologize within myself and to her that, it's so easy to forget because you want to forget all the things that you allowed someone to actually take you through. Uh, in a sense, you kind of sign up for it because you want to love the person, you want them to love you back equally the same, and you want to see them healed in those situations. But, you know, evidently some people don't want to grow and heal through those situations. So we have to learn as women how to let things go. Sometimes we find ourselves in those situations when we're connected with children involved that, it becomes something that is almost addictive behavior. It's kind of weird to say it like that, but it it really in a sense is that way, you know. So my thing is, we never really give ourselves a chance to heal when we're coming out of those situations and give ourselves credit for being brave and just having a sense of self-worth when you're dealing with those type of situations, because when people are telling you that, oh, nobody wants to be with you, nobody's going to want to be with you, or how hateful they are towards you, you don't want to believe that, but that's something that you're being watered with, and somehow it sticks in your subconscious and you start to do things that you normally wouldn't do. And it's really sick because people think that domestic violence is something that, you could just lightly brush away. But like I said, when you have children attached to those type of situations, it's psychologically an attachment that is, you know, it's taken for granted. And you can get so far gone in the situation that you can literally lose your life, and your children can be, at risk as well. So, it's really hard to talk about. It's really triggering. And there's a lot of trauma there when you have to talk about things like that. I noticed that she said that she don't mean to smile when she's telling her story. She's laughing as she's telling her story, and she doesn't know if that's a coping mechanism, and it could be for her. But and everyone that goes through domestic violence copes with it differently. Like for me, it's hard to talk about it because I went through a lot of trauma. For instance, he threw her through a cabinet. My abuser bit me in my face. He used to choke me when I was pregnant. he sat on top of me when I was pregnant. He would pop up over my mother's house and do crazy things. Like, there's several police reports. And then also, what was so very profound for me is the dynamic of how certain abusive men use financial abuse to destabilize the mother of their children just so they can come running back to them. And I begin to actually kind of break that down in the sense that, that's like having a demonic possession trying to possess you and control you and beat you by all means and any means necessary. So, he was hounding her down with all of these motions for her to pay him, and he's making all this money. But at the same time, it's like he wanted to use some kind of mechanism to have control over her. And she kept falling back into it. And I understand the dynamic of that because I was one of those people trying to survive through domestic violence. And even to this day, after fighting 10 years of being abused in the system through my abuser for retaliation, when it comes to the child support, every time I would go file my taxes or look at my paychecks while I'm working, it was abuse all over again because here I am, paying my abuser to live and thrive through my hard earned income that I was building for myself to get away from him and to rebuild my life for myself and my children. There's another point that she made about how, he was able to come in and just get the child on visitation whenever he wanted to. And like for me, in my case, there are several police reports in my case, but the system sided with him and they ended up awarding my abuser my children, my two youngest children, which was totally unfair. It was very unjust. And I have the paper trail for everything as I'm leaving him and trying to pursue college, going to college, and trying to make amends with co-parenting in an equal way. It just didn't work out that way because he wanted every ally that he could get, to try to control me in that manner. Um, our agreement was if I'm going to school, then I would take him off child support and he would help me with the children because I had no help. I had no assistance, no help. I was struggling terribly bad because every time I would leave him, he would tell social services or child support enforcement. These are in the documents, statements that he made. Uh, I'm not paying child support. I'm not helping her with anything every time she leaves me. And yes, I abuse her. It's statements. And still, no justice in that situation. But for what it's worth, I lost a lot of time with my children. And when I would go visit them and I would have to leave, you know, to go back to school or, while we're going in and out of court, my children were crying and I experienced all the trauma that they experienced, the separation anxiety. Even to this day, I still have anxiety because I know the emotional abuse and the division that my abuser caused between me and my children. And, there are several times where, I've gone in and out of therapy and I've literally had to put myself back into therapy because I I've had some triggers at work. I've had men be so aggressive towards me that, these things started to like trigger me again. My anxiety and just minor little panic attacks here and there. And I literally had to take a leave from work because I started to see where it was triggering me so bad that my trauma was starting to kick in again. And like I said, it takes a mental toll on your whole walk in life when you're trying to walk different, when you're trying to stand up for yourself, when you're trying to recover from something as detrimental as that. Someone who's not only physical abusive to you, but also mentally and financially abusive. And like I said, I think that people underestimate how far these abusers will take it. I feel like there needs to be something in the justice system that protects women who go through domestic violence. There's nothing that really protects us from these things. I've seen so many stories on twisted crimes where even now there's a significant amount of women who don't make it out. They just don't make it out. And it's getting bad, really, really bad nowadays. So I really just wanted to really shed some light on that because I had to sit down and really give myself credit about how resilient I have been over the years. I mean, I literally went to jail for kidnapping my own children because this man wanted so much control over my life and how I wanted to just not be with him anymore, that he would go to any extent to keep me submerged in any form of violence that he decided that he wanted to use against me. And it's just really hard to talk about because, like I said, it's really sad. There's nothing in this system that really, really protects us from these type of things that happen. And this is why I'm taking the stand that I'm taking. Like when I say, there are so many women that have had their civil rights, just their rights, period, violated when it comes to men dominating the justice system. It's not fair. And I can name at least 4 or 5 of my own rights that have been violated. And honestly, it's a form of racketeering. It's a form of racketeering. Nobody wants to identify what it is, but when you go to the extent of destabilizing someone after you have abused them and it's on record, that is a form of racketeering. And when there are people in place in the justice system who don't identify what it is that is being done to women like that, they are a part of the problem. So I just want to say to a lot of women out there, just be careful and definitely look at the signs. Don't be afraid to walk away. And most importantly, my phone is ringing. Most importantly, most importantly, if you have to sneak away to get away from the whole situation just to keep safe, you and your children, or just you by yourself, you do what you have to do. You don't tell anyone where you're going, and you do what you have to do to get far away from that situation because it's so dangerous. There are so many men out here who have psychological issues that you don't really see them coming out, honestly, until either you're pregnant or after you have the children, or if you hit some peak of success within your life that will stabilize you to move on without them. And these are the harsh realities. When you start seeing those type of signs, it's time for you to get away because there are red flags. And I think that a lot of women wait to see if their men are going to change when they don't. You think that, going to counseling, relationship counseling or marriage counseling is going to help you. But the bottom line is a lot of these people, these men, they need exorcisms. Like they need exorcisms. They have demonic strongholds on them that I don't think any therapist could help a lot of them with. They need to go get priests, dip them in some water, and exorcise those demons. And that's just the truth. Like I said, my advice to a lot of women is if you know that you're in one of those type of situations, I would strongly advise that you move out of your city, move out of your state, to keep yourself protected. There's help out there, and almost anywhere you go when it comes to protecting yourself in those type of situations, don't tell anyone. Don't leave any signs that make you look like you're going to lead this person, because those are the things that put you in the most danger. When I told my abuser that I was going to college, I didn't really per se that I was going to leave him just then. I said, well, we're going to work through it, and I'm going to go to school so I can get a better job and use my college degree. So if you're not going to help me with the child support, then, we can come to a terms where, help me with the children. And once I come back and get them, we'll figure it out. But the whole time in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I don't want to be back with this guy because, I don't want my daughter, my only daughter, to think it's okay for men to abuse her. So in a sense, my daughter saved my life. God saved my life because I understood my assignment. And it wasn't to sit here and try to continuously try to heal this man through his own trauma, because it was either going to get me unalived or me and my children unalived. And I can tell you, one night it was so bad that, I had to lock me and my children in the room, and he was yelling, he was like punching the walls in the house, and he was really going through it. And I made up in my mind that if he was going to bust through that door, we had this tall wooden antique lamp. I was just going to hit him in the head with the lamp. And he did. He came in the room and I picked up the lamp. But just as clear as day, I heard God tell me not to hit him with that lamp, because it's just as sure as I hit him with that lamp, he was going to die that very night. And I knew it. I was going to hit him hard enough where he would be unalived. So I didn't. But he carried on and he carried on, and we were scared. My children were probably a little bit too small to understand what was going on. But it's a lot of things that I'm glad that I came through, and I could tell you a million stories, but I don't want to go through each and every individual story. I just know that when you see those signs, you have to get yourself in a safe place. And I didn't give myself credit enough this year, in the past 10 years, to really sit down and heal, which is why I took my leave from work, because I'm paying for insurance and I want to use my insurance to continue my healing journey. I was working 6 days a week and going to school, making straight A's. I am going to school, making straight A's. But I was tired when I took off, and I was mentally and spiritually tired, and I didn't understand it. And God had to remind me that, baby, you just expunged your whole record. You've been fighting for 10 years in survival mode, and you're on to your bachelor's degree. You've already got the associate's degree, going through all of that. After you got arrested, you got a felony, and you couldn't find anything to suffice to keep you stabilized. Year after year, they're taking money out of your check, and when you go file your taxes, they garnish the whole they garnish the whole income tax check. Like, just really sit back and think about all the things that you had to fight your way through. You had to do your research. You had to advocate for yourself, and you're still advocating for yourself. So think about how resilient you had to be in order to get to this place in your life right now. That is why you're tired. That is why you're tired. It has nothing to do with you moving around. You're mentally and spiritually tired, and you were broken in that situation, putting the pieces back together. And I had to realize that, because I was really beating myself up. I was hard on myself. And God had to remind me, no, stop doing that. You deserve the time that you need. You put in the work. You've been putting in the work. And I keep telling myself I'm not working hard enough because, oh, I should be this far. I should be doing this, and I should be, but I made the choice to be with someone, that I thought was going to make a good husband, and it just didn't turn out that way. That I thought I was going to be able to provide the life that my children deserve in a family structure, and it just didn't work out that way. And sometimes it doesn't. People think that, you sit here and have these plans, but God has another plan for me, which is why I'm talking about advocating today and every day that I'm living my life through my own pains and gains. Because even though he tried to break me, I was able to still do more things than he has done to find some type of integrity for the things that he's stolen from me so comfortably. And I had to really take myself back into the mode of realizing what I have accomplished. And although it might not seem much to someone else didn't get a chance to do that for themselves. And I have to consider that. I was totally mentally and spiritually tired. And when this specific customer came to our counter, I literally, I mean, he was verbally debasing. It was just terrible. And I do a good job. I literally just got a bonus and a raise, you know? So it's not like I'm a terrible worker. I mean, my work proves itself years after years. But that was in addition to what I was already triggered by every time I look at my paycheck, and I send in a motion already to have them stop it. My children are emancipated now, but they understand the dynamic of the abuse that I have encountered over the year, even though my children are very hurt because they didn't ask to be here. I don't hold anything against them when it comes to the hurt and the pain that they've had to suffer through when I used to come visit, my visitations, and how torn they used to be when I would have to leave. And I've tried to pull myself back into that situation, just like Royce did on certain occasions and situations, and having to leave out of the situation to go back into a domestic violence shelter to protect myself and my children at times. It just, it was a reminder of how strong I had to be over the years. So I'm just saying that to say this to any survivors out there. You're doing good if you got away. You're doing great if you got away. And what's more important is you're finding yourself and you're finding your own way, no matter what it looks like. And don't look back. Don't look back, because there's peace in finding yourself. It really is peace in finding yourself and finding your own way. Don't be afraid to do that without someone who is trying to keep you from becoming the beautiful being, strong being that you are. You have so much potential, and only a coward will try to take that from you, try to make you feel less than that. So I really want to just remind these young girls that it's not cute for a man to be overly possessive of you and jealous to the point where he's physically abusing you or verbally abusing you. Get away from it. Get away from it. Cut it off. Love and respect yourself. Like, really, really love and respect yourself, because you deserve that. And having a baby from a man is not going to really solidify a future with him for you, because a lot of times men change when you have the baby or when you're pregnant with the baby because of a lot of your attention as a woman. goes to the baby, and they change. So I want you to really think about that because a lot of women wonder, well, what happened? You know, why is he acting like this? You can't give him 100% of your attention like that anymore simply because you have a baby. A lot of there are women out here that put men before their children. I was never one of those women. I was never one of those women. So when you start seeing those signs, either as a pregnant woman or a woman who has had a child afterwards from a man, it's time to leave the situation because he's not really helping you pull the weight. He's not nurturing you and the baby at an equal measure. So yeah, I really just want to point that out to you guys. Um, I think I touched on everything that I really wanted to touch on today because it's hard talking about it. I'm still fighting for my rights in certain situations. Um, as far as the child support goes, the destabilizing situation, the spiritual attack in that in itself, it's draining. And you're still trying to fight your way through it. And that's the reality. But I never gave up the fight because if I did, I would be out here really lost. And I've seen a lot of women slip through the cracks because they gave up hope. And I hope the ones that I did see go through that trial, I hope they find some type of hope to pull themselves up and out of the situation and get the wisdom and the knowledge and the safety and the love that they need for themselves to become more resilient. It's not easy. And I know for a fact it's not easy. But you have to do it because you don't want to lose yourself to the loser. Don't lose yourself to the loser. Your children need you and you need you. So just set up some boundaries for yourself. And if you have to leave, make a plan. Have to make a plan. You can't just, if you know that these type of people are going to fly off the handle or be unstable when you tell them that you don't want to be with them anymore, you have to do that from a distance. You have to protect yourself and your children in those type of situations. Don't ever put your children in harm's way when it comes to that. Because even though my children were under temporary guardianship and me and their father made that agreement, he still used the system against me to take my children, destabilize me, and still have some type of vendetta to try to make me come back to him. Because even to this day, when my daughter graduated, she was the last one to graduate. When I went to her graduation, he harassed me so bad I was sick the next day. My child is 21 now, but you know, it was even scary then. But I knew I had to go see my baby graduate, you know, from high school. He was trying to come to my hotel room and my daughter wouldn't give him the room. I mean, just things like that. And like I said, I remember a lot of things that triggered my trauma. Um, him shooting a gun out the window, saying, he will unalive me, if I leave him. Um, the bite in the face and biting me in my face or choking me while I was pregnant, slapping me until my nose bleed. It's just several things that like I said, I ran back into those walls, but it took me 10 years to recover my own strength, and I'm still recovering it. And those triggers will remind you of your trauma. So yeah, I just want to leave that message with you guys. I really want you women to be safe, and I want you to be smart because don't take your life for granted. A lot of these men don't care about taking you out of here simply because they don't care about themselves. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So if there is any man out here that's doing any three of those things to you, beware. Take heed. Do not continue to fill a cup that's set on stealing, abusing, beating you down, and just breaking your spirit. Don't don't do it. Steer away from it immediately. You know? So that's my word today. Um that's a mouthful, but I have my therapy sessions every week, and now I'm trying to work it out with my job about, making sure that if I'm going to be working 6 days a week, then I need to have at least 4 hours to myself throughout one of those days in the week to have my session with my therapist because my job can be so stressful between people being racist or men just overly, people being racist or just some men, not all men, being overly aggressive for no reason over a rental car. So you just never know what people are going through in their life, what they're doing personally, and sometimes you even got to set those boundaries with your employers. You know, if that doesn't work out, then I know that God got another path for me because I have several other things that I've been working on, starting with continuing getting justice for myself and advocating for other women because I know that's my calling. And I'm not going to give up until I'm able to help protect myself and help protect other women and children when it comes to the justice system. Because, like I said, there should be something in place, whether a man has a lot of money or not, or if he knows someone in the system that will help protect women like me, Royce, and even Amy, because I don't know all of the side of her story. I know if you're going to divorce someone within 6 months, something ain't right. Everyone has their own story. So, like I said, I just really resonated with, Royce's story simply because of the kind of abuse that she encountered with the suing and the destabilizing method, after trying to leave your abuser. It's just senseless acts. And like I said, it's racketeering. So I hope that we all can come together, those who know, and get some matters at hand in order so that we can defend ourselves in fairness. Because something ain't right when, these kind of things keep happening over and over again and people just sweep it under the rug. It's just not right. I hate coming on the camera sometimes to speak about certain things, you guys, because I'm in my thoughts a lot. I really am. And I'm not hurt anymore, but I'm still healing. And it's hard for me to talk about certain things. So I know a lot of people want me to talk about certain things. Certain things make me mad when I see certain things. And then when I see young women not being smart about some of the choices that they're making because they're thinking with the wrong counterparts. I just shake my head because I would rather you not learn the hard way. Be wiser because you should know that there are certain individuals out here that are looking for some type of control over you if they know that you're smarter than them, if you can be more successful than them. And a lot of times it's men because they want you to depend on their energy only because they need your energy to feel like they're dominating whatever aspect of you that's powerful. They want to take your power from you. I'm not saying that I'm more powerful than a man, but what I'm saying is we have equal power. We might not be the same type of being, but we both equally need each other. But you're not going to overpower my power as a woman because I know my lane. I know what I'm supposed to be operating in. And I'm not going to teach a man how to do that if he's being abusive to me. So, anyway, fashion and form. So, yeah, um, just make smart decisions. You know, for every action, there's a reaction. Make smart decisions. That's what I remind my child of. And she's been doing good so far. Thank God. Thank God. So, yeah. Anyway, peace, you guys. Be safe. And I love y'all like I really do. I really pray the best for you guys. And I want to see you love and be happy and be loved. Love yourself first. Okay? Like, really love yourself first. And that real love will come along. You'll know it. You'll know it. Okay? Bye.